Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Generosity Generation Hangout. As always, we're joined by our host, Michael Mayer. It's First Friday, Fist Bump Friday. I know we always like to get that in there.
Bang!
And we've got a great guest for you today. We're going to be covering how to effectively use the 7 levels of communication. So, Michael, if you want to explain a little bit more about what we're going to discuss and introduce everybody to Bill, that would be great.
That sounds great. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, I'm pumped up for First Fridays today. This is going to be rocking. I've got a guest, Bill Crawley, here today. Fist Bump Friday, Bill. Whoop, bam! Right? Flutter, sparkle. And I'll tell you, it's one of those where it's a great thing to interview and have exciting and different people on and so on and so forth. But what gets me excited is mastery, right? Just mastery matters. And somebody that literally takes a system and takes it and absolutely implements it and takes it to the next level. We say in Gen that, listen, this is not 180 return. This is not throwing Zillow leads at you or Trulia leads or throwing a new marketing scheme at you. What this is this is a 1-degree tweak. And Bill and a lot of you already know kind of what to do. You've implemented this from the heart. You've heard to do handwritten notes. You've heard to call people, but there's a better way to do handwritten notes. There's a better way to do these calls. And I am so honored to bring our guest on today. He's probably mastered more of the different strategies and tactics of the 7L system than maybe anybody out there, and that's saying quite a bit because there's 107 referral generating strategies and tactics in Gen with more growing every single day. So Bill Crawley, welcome to the show. Tell us a little about yourself and your market and your background.
Okay, thank you, Michael. First of all, my background, I was originally in the automotive service and repair industry for 25 years before I went into real estate. It wears and tears on your body. I had a business of my own for 10 years. The downturn in the economy, I ended up turning the wrench most of the time. That wear and tear took on my shoulder, and it was time to find something else to do. And I ended up really just going into real estate. I think that's about it coming into real estate. And then I spent my first year and a half roughly floundering around in real estate, trying to figure out what was going to work for me. I was always told to door knock, go chase after expireds, door knock on the FSBOs, all that kind of stuff. Collect all the emails, spam everybody. I didn't work that way in my last business. It felt very uncomfortable and unnatural, and it just was not my personality to do that going forward in real estate. And honestly, I was to the point where I almost got out.
Yeah. Let me say something on that, Bill. You just hit it on the head. It's just like, what other industry in the world has people come in and the first thing they do is throw them a phone book or throw them a cold directory of door knocking doors and says, let's go this way. We've got to be the only industry in the world that soliciting, being a criminal and looking to get on the do not call list, or being a spammer are your first 3 options. Is that just crazy or what? So you weren't going to do that because you're a good person. Wow, what a novel concept. And you weren't going to do it, and you thought about getting out of the business. What made you decide to stick into the business, and what has that decision done for you?
So, believe it or not, what got me to stick in the business was a friend of mine, a lender, had invited me to your seminar in Madison back in April of 2012. It was, I think it was probably one of your first original Gen events. And you started talking about the handwritten notes, and then you talked about the great Retrace. You talked about how you would connect people, the housewarming parties. And the light bulb went off in my head. When I ran my repair shop business, I did that stuff. I did handwritten notes. I called people. I called the other people who had referred people to thank them. And the light bulb went off. So I went, hey, dummy, go back to what you were doing before. It worked. Now everything you did, your systems were better than what I had been doing. But the reality is that it worked, and that platform works in any business like this when it's relational.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what were you doing production-wise in 2012 when you attended Gen Madison? Holy cow, that was a long time ago. That was, I think that might be 60 or more events ago. So that's that
Wow.
you're definitely bringing back the thought of that event. But Gen Madison, and what was your production at that time? You had been in the business about a year, right?
Yeah, it was a year and a half.
Yeah.
At that point, up to that event, I think I had closed a total of 2 units at that point. I had one getting ready to close a week after. It was just kind of,
Yeah.
floundering around. It was a little frustrating.
So what mindset-wise, what was your biggest shift that you made when you went to the Gen event? And I'm genuinely curious on this, because what I would love to do is I would love to mentally make the mind shift that you did in every one of our attendees, because you took off with it. You literally embraced it and ran and took action and implemented. If we could repeat that formula over and over again, what a
Well,
great world it would be.
Well, I think the advantage I had over most people was that, again, I had done most of those strategies prior in my other business.
That's right.
So therefore, it allowed me to grasp the concept, holy crap, this really works, and you can have a super smooth, easy business, and it's all referrals.
So what was the first thing you put into place?
Honestly, the first thing I did was the network stack.
Okay.
That was the very first thing I did.
Yeah.
As soon as I left that event, I was making calls, scheduling, stacking people for the first stack day.
Yeah. So explain the stack to maybe there's some new people to the Generosity Generation on this. We have new people every single month that join us on this. How would you explain the networking stack?
Yeah, and right before you jump into that, Bill, let me just say, for anybody that's out there, if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, we do have a Q&A app open. Go ahead and submit your questions there. You'll find it at the top right-hand corner of the Hangout, and we'll try to get them answered on air for you.
And people need to know this is live. I mean, like, you're here right now, so are we, and your questions are going to be answered live by Bill or myself. So thank you for being here, and unless you're listening to the recording, then it's not live. I don't know if I need to explain that or anything, but if you're here right now, it's live. If you're listening to this later, then it's recorded. So, but your questions will always be answered because we love your questions. So Bill, yeah, let's go into that. So the networking stack, honestly, one of my favorite strategies, and one of the most impactful for vaulting somebody's referral generation to the next level. So tell me a little bit about that.
Right. So most people are familiar with a one-on-one. Anybody who's been in any type of, say, BNI or anything like that is very familiar with the one-on-one strategy is. That's where you sit down with somebody, meet with them, either coffee or lunch, typically, and you spend an hour with them, and ultimately you want to explore what their biggest needs are, what their biggest challenges are, etc., and then really just focus on them. What you do in the stack, however, is you take your first appointment and you schedule that one, and you schedule your second appointment immediately after at the same location.
Okay.
And then when your second appointment shows up, you introduce your first appointment to your second appointment.
Okay.
And you excuse yourself for a few minutes, let them talk about you and anything else they may have in common that they need to be connected on. Ultimately, you come up as the connector because you're the one that introduced them, and you let them just kind of make that connection happen, and then make sure that I always made sure that appointment 1 or 2 were definitely going to be following up with each other. And then appointment 3 comes, same location, which then gets introduced to appointment 2, and you repeat the process. You make the introduction, you excuse yourself, you come back, you thank that first appointment for their time, and then go on to appointment 3, and then the 4th appointment shows up, and rinse and repeat again.
Okay.
I would typically do 4 in a day.
So, Bill, when you implemented this strategy, what type of results did you see?
Initially, what I saw and the feedback I was getting was I was the connector. I was the guy that you went to because I knew everybody, and it just happened. What I would do is I would contact people, invite them for a one-on-one at my location, which happened to be a coffee shop right in town, and I knew everybody there. I knew most of the regulars. I knew all the staff. They all knew me. So that really helped with the environment and the setting. And then I would work somebody in there occasionally. It would be the first time I would get to meet them. Right. And I would work them in the middle in the stack. So I had somebody who was really familiar with me on the top and the bottom. And during the conversation, you know, if I was trying to move forward with this person in some type of business relationship, and I actually had one person lean in and say, "Everybody here likes you. I like you. I want to do business with you."
Totally. It's not, they love you. They love you by association, right? I mean, it's like all these other people love you. They don't know you, but everybody loves you. So it's like, wow, you must be lovable. So I guess I'll just love you, right? And then they get to know you, and then they really learn why everybody loves you, and they love you even more. And I love that you explain the stack. You know, it's literally number 1 meets number 2 meets number 3, and number 3 meets number 4. And what's interesting is number 2 meets number 1 and number 3, and that 3 o'clock meets that 2 o'clock and that 4 o'clock, or however you do it. And you instantly became known as a connector. What did you notice changed, either in your business or in other people's eyes, when you became known as a connector or the connector?
I noticed just in random side conversations with people that I would come across on a regular basis, and they would mention, well, you know, rumor is you're the connector. I need somebody for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's the rumor, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell me more specifically what you need, and I would take notes, and I would make the connection happen.
That's right.
And even if I didn't have a person to fill that need, I would find somebody who did, make that connection, and still make it happen.
And that's such a huge concept, because people need to realize that the evolution of the most referred professional Bill Crawley is the most referred professional in the Madison, Wisconsin area, period. He's the most referred professional. So the evolution here is he started out by being the most connected professional. He was the connector, so connected, and then it becomes the most introduced. You start to become introduced to other people. You start getting introduced to people because you're the connector, and then that third level is then you become the most referred. People start referring you your target market, your ideal client, and so let's start with becoming the most connected, and then go through the evolution, and you're a connector, man, and that's fantastic. And you were literally not just living off the reputation of being a connector. You were strategic and proactive with your connecting, to the point where the others could literally see you connecting. Even if they weren't in your stack, others could observe you stacking or you connecting. So, they, you know, peripherally or viscerally, they could see that you were stacking, and you're a connector. I'm guessing that the hostess or the waitress, or, man, you're a connector, man. I'm guessing they said something like that, even though they weren't even in your stack.
Right.
Were you meeting at the same place?
Yeah, we would meet at the same place, because that way I'm always on time.
That's right. You don't have to worry about being late, except for that first one.
Right.
Home court advantage.
Exactly. So that worked out really, really well.
Tell me about your home court advantage. Tell me about the restaurant that is your home court advantage. If somebody else out there wants to establish themselves as a regular at a restaurant, you know, what's yours like?
Mine is actually a coffee shop.
Okay.
They got great Wi-Fi and they got great coffee, so I can get all kinds of business done there.
Yeah.
I know all the staff by name. They all know me by name. I get a lot of referrals from the staff, because other regulars and people that come in frequently, you know, I'm supposed to meet a realtor, and they'll grab my card and say, "You need to talk to this guy."
Wow.
It just works out really, really well.
I have to tell you, a coffee shop is so perfect. one of the things is the home court advantage. I described it in the book in 7L as a restaurant because that's what I did, right? I did EBT. In the book, I wrote it as EBT. It was kind of an inside joke with those that had met me at my one-on-one at the home court advantage, which was EBT. But I have to tell you, one of the things that we're really enforcing with our coaching clients and people such as yourself, Bill, is that a coffee shop is a really good place, because sometimes when you're at a restaurant, you feel awkward about the coffees that come afterwards, whereas in a coffee shop or a Panera or a Atlanta Bread Company or something like that, listen, they've got people coming and going all day long anyway, and having coffee at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock is part of their regular business. So it's one of those where, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. It can certainly be a coffee shop that serves food. So I love that you had that alternative on that. So how was your follow-up from the networking stack at the home court advantage? What did you do afterwards to really stay in momentum with those relationships?
So I would, during the conversations, I'd find out what their biggest challenge was, and I just really went through more of a coaching conversation, just ask a few questions and probing and, kind of peel back the layers, and eventually they'd self-discover the answer themselves, and you're the genius because, you made them come up with the answer.
Yeah.
And then I would follow up with a handwritten power note based on something else that they did personally. If it was somebody was training for a marathon or running or something like that, and I would send a handwritten note, and the PS was something probably in regards to where's the best place to get shoes. I keep blowing out shoes when I run all the time. I need some better shoes. Where do you go? And they would call me, and they would think of that, and like, how did you remember that?
Yeah. How did you remember?
I'd write it down.
I wrote it in my blessings book. People all the time
what do you think I was doing when I went to the bathroom? Write this down.
Yeah, people are like, Michael, you have such a great memory. It's like, no, I don't. I write everything down, and then it's in the computer after that. So, all right. So the power note you brought up. So do you follow the 7 steps to a power note when you write them?
I do.
You do? All right. So let's go through those 7. Which are the most important of the 7 to you when you write the 7 steps of a power note? Which ones are the most important to you?
One is the write it rightly, so it's on an upward angle. It projects that positive.
That's right.
Secondly is the blue ink, and third is probably the most important, is the leaving out the I, me, or my. Yeah,
focusing on the you.
Yeah, exactly. And then the power of the PS, that is a huge piece of that as well.
Yeah, so real quickly for the people that are newer to the generosity generation, let me just tell you the 7 steps to a power note. We all know that we should be writing handwritten notes, but I have to tell you that when people have a system to write a handwritten note, it seems like they write more handwritten notes. It's like, all right, I know I'm writing this the correct way. So number 1 is unbranded notes, which a lot of times surprises people, and especially those that just bought 1,000 Keller Williams cards or Coldwell Banker cards or Berkshire Hathaway cards. Sorry for you that did that. But unbranded cards. Number 2 is use blue ink. Number 3 is use the word you as often as possible and avoid, like Bill said, the words me, my, or I. So it's a note about them, not you. So use the word you as much as possible. And then also be specific. Notice that he said they did a marathon or whatever. He was looking for something to specifically note in the power note. And then there's the power of positive projection, which is, in his case, he's a runner, right? Bill, are you still running?
When I can.
Yeah. So when somebody runs a marathon, he's also acknowledging someone who is already or is maybe achieving a goal that he wants to achieve. And that's the power of positive projection, is acknowledge in others what you want to improve in yourself, and you will improve that in yourself. So that's the power of positive projection. And then he said, write rightly, which is write your notes so that the slant goes like you want your sales to go. If you want your sales growth to go up and to the right, then write your notes so that it flows up and to the right. And then the 7th one is the power of the PS, and the PS is your call to action. This is what you want them to do after they read the note. Do you want them to text you or call you or email you or check out a website? Whatever it may be, put it in your PS, highlight it, and one quick note on that is write your PS first. Write your PS and then write your note around it instead of trying to fit your PS in last. So that's the 7 steps to a power note. How else did you follow up, Bill, when you were meeting with these people one-on-one?
They would get a voice message. Typically, I would just go right into slide dial just so I could keep things short and right to the point. They'd also get an email follow-up.
Yeah, so what's slide dial, real quick? What's slide dial? Explain that to everyone.
Slide dial is a really cool app that allows you to call directly into somebody's voicemail and leave a message there.
Yeah, and it doesn't even ring on their end, right?
No, all of a sudden they got a notice they got a voicemail. So it's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's a time saver because you know that they're not going to answer. You can prepare yourself for a voicemail, leave a really professional, great voicemail, and hopefully have a call to action in that to have them call you back. So, so what was your focus with the text message, the email, and then the call? What was your real focus for your follow-up after the networking stack at your home court advantage?
It was really about them to generally whatever their challenge was to make sure that whatever it was they were going to do. So maybe somebody had an action plan that they were already laying out in their head verbally in front of me, and then I would just kind of remind them about that in those in the note, the email, and the phone call, and then I would follow up. Probably, if I met them on a Thursday, I would follow up the following Wednesday to make sure that they had actually implemented and where they were at with that process.
So if you met them on a Friday or a Thursday, you made a note to yourself to follow up the next Wednesday, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, how huge is that? It's less than a week later, so you can say, hey, I'm just following up, we met less than a week later instead of going past a week. And what was that call like usually? Or was it a call? Was it an email? What?
No, generally it was a call. The call went really well, and most of the time they were genuinely surprised, genuinely pleased, because I was being very genuine about the whole process and their success.
Yeah.
Because the more successful they are and the more I can help them to be successful, it's reciprocity. It's just going to come back to me. It's the law of the universe. It's got to balance itself out.
Amen. Law of reciprocity starts with generosity to kick in the law of reciprocity. So what did you notice? So this kind of started in 2012. What was your production for the next 12 months after that? What were the results from being known as the connector and then also really doing this networking stack at the home court advantage and following up like a professional, truly like a professional, and even a little above and beyond? What were the results for that next full year?
Okay, so that's kind of an interesting story, actually. I still had that repair shop. I was still running that business and trying to sell it at the same time. I was trying to do real estate. So,
You're doing two things.
Yeah, and I'm 50% effective in either one, so it wasn't working very well. Yeah. What I ended up doing was actually unloading the business, all the assets and everything to an employee, and then I was able to focus on real estate full time, and that was in June in 2012. I also went and took and got my brokers in June of 2012.
Okay.
At that point, I had my productivity started to pick up significantly at that point. I think I had 4 or 5 properties under contract at that point. So
yeah, so this is just 60 days later. This was in April that we did our Gen Madison, if I remember correctly. So this is just June. This is just 60 days later. You've gone from 2 transactions in your career to having 4 pending, yes?
Yes.
Were they referred, or were you getting them some other way?
Nope, all referred.
Okay. All right. So how'd you do by the end of 2012?
End of 2012, I think I want to say I ended up somewhere around 8, 9, 10. I have to, mentally roll back. That was a long time ago.
That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, that feels like forever. I say it was around 11 or 12 total is what I ended up at. Yeah.
All right, and then what did you do in 2013? Right, so 2 years ago. So not last year, but the year before that.
So with all my outgoing referrals that closed, including all the referrals that came to me that closed, 2013, 28. 28 sizes actually closed.
So 28 your second year?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went from 11 to 28, so you nearly tripled your business, 2.5 times.
Right.
And then what did you do last year?
Last year was a kind of a snafu. I got a little distracted. So I was running way behind last year, and so I ended up putting a deal together in December where I was able to pull 8 sides out of. That kicked me up to just shy of 28 there again.
So 28. So 28 in 2013, and then 28 last year.
Right.
Okay, and then what's your pace for this year?
This year I should be somewhere around 48 to 52.
Okay.
I kind of shifted gears a little bit, just refocused slightly where I was targeting for business, and now I'm representing three individuals or 3 different groups that flip properties. So with them combined, and then all the additional referrals that I'm pulling in, I should close somewhere around 48 to 52.
Okay.
I honestly, I don't look at that number. I could care less how many transactions I close.
So very good. So what? So you're following up really well, one-on-ones. You're doing the follow-up with the handwritten notes and the phone calls. What else are you doing? And we've got about 2 minutes in this segment. So if you were to summarize or give advice to someone who is looking to get started and rolling with the 7L system and the generosity generation, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to do the network stack, the handwritten notes, and the great retrace, the phone calls, tracing back for the referrals, thanking for the introduction, how you got.
Hey, don't steal the thunder from the second segment, big guy. We're gonna go deep into the great retrace in the second segment. It's gonna be something that everybody here will not want to miss. Great retrace, my legacy strategy. Truly, they're 100 years after I'm gone. They'll be thanking me and thinking of me for the great retrace, because it's. I'll tell you what, it's so effective, and it's so laced and based in appreciation. It is truly my favorite strategy. I implement it every single week, still, even to this day, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And we're going to hear from Bill Crawley, the most referred real estate professional in Madison, Wisconsin, and we're going to roll right into this second segment next. You're not going to want to miss the great retrace. It's phenomenal, and you're going to see, oh my gosh, is this the 1 degree tweak that can take my business to double to triple the production in just a year or two? And I think it's one of them, that's for sure. So
yeah,
Bill,
we have a little less than a minute in this one. Before we get into this next segment and start talking about the great retrace, I just want to reiterate that we have the Q&A app available, so if anybody has any questions, even if it's about the first segment while we're doing the second segment, go ahead and post those there, and we'll get them answered live on air.
Fantastic, and I appreciate that. And the bathrooms are down the hall and to the right. If you need to do any of that. I am cubbied up here in a Las Vegas hotel room at the top of the Palms. I'm actually on the 51st floor, overlooking the Strip. It is a gorgeous view. Had the opportunity this week to share the stage with George W. Bush and Damon John from Shark Tank fame. Got a chance to meet and greet with George W. Bush, and it was a phenomenal occasion. Probably one of my best presentations ever, which was great because I was a little bit nervous because it was in front of 3,000 people. It was in a theater, which is an unusual environment, and also because I had 45 minutes and whenever you have 45 minutes, you're constrained, and then all of a sudden I lost 5 minutes at the beginning because of a sound issue, and then a long intro. So it was like, oh crud. Well, I ended 26 seconds early, and to a standing ovation, and it was an honor. It was a dream come true. I've been affirming for over a year. I am stadium speaker, and here I was speaking in a stadium. It was a very cool occasion, and so today we're here with Bill Crawley, the most referred real estate professional in Madison, Wisconsin. He is kicking butt, coming from the automotive industry where they don't know anything about cold calling expireds or cold calling FSBOs or door knocking, door knocking, and he certainly isn't going to spam people. So he decided that there's a better way, a revolutionary approach to sales, and it's the 7L system, the generosity generation, and he's mastering these techniques and tripling his business. I'll tell you, I got to give you another fist bump, Bill Crawley, right here. Give me a fist bump Friday, right? And then blow it up, flutter it, sparkle it, the whole 9 yards. So Bill, we intimated in the first segment, which if you missed the first segment, you're gonna have to go back and listen to that. That thing is off the charts. We went down the road of networking stack, home court advantage, power notes, power packs episode, and you got to make sure you listen to that. This segment, we're talking about the Great Retrace. So tell me about your implementation of the Great Retrace. What is the Great Retrace, and how's it working for you, or what are the results?
Yeah, so the Great Retrace, I guess simply stated, is the opportunity to call somebody to thank them for the introduction or the referral, and then you call the next person to thank them for the referral who they have no idea who you're even talking about because they never met that person.
Right.
So as an example, it would be, trying to think one quick off the top of my head, would be, say Susan, and I would call, I'd call Jack and say, Jack, I just wanted to let you know I connected with Susan. I'm going to list her house next week. I want to thank you for that introduction and that recommendation, and I really appreciate that. Is there anything I can do for you? And I'd typically always follow it up with that, see if they need anything. And he'd always say, no, thank you. You always do a great job for me and take good care of everybody I refer to you. I'm just plenty happy with that. Well, then I would call Rob and I would say, hey, Rob, I just listed Susan's house and I really want to thank you for that. And he would say, well, who's Susan? And I would say, well, you introduced me to Jack, and had you not introduced me to Jack, I never would have met Susan. So I just wanted to let you know that's how that happened, and I really appreciate that.
Nice.
Is there anything you need? Anything I can do for you? Well, no, I don't need anything right now, but if I do, I'll let you know.
Right.
Okay. And then, you know, from there on down. So you just keep doing that. And then,
let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who is the lender that recommended that you go to Gen Madison?
That was Laura Stanfield from Waterstone Mortgage.
Laura
Stanfield.
How do you spell that?
Stanfield, I think, off the top of my head.
Okay. So how did Laura hear about the Gen event? Do you remember?
I believe Waterstone was part of hosting that event.
Yeah. So Brian Clute, maybe.
Let's see. There would have been. Oh gosh, who else was in there? There's a few of those people. I don't think I've met Brian. But Laura was working out of the same. She had a little office in the real estate office that I was working out of at the time.
Okay.
And
I think Brian actually introduced us to Laura. And what's interesting is Brian was introduced to me by Stephen Marshall. And just to let you know, is the event that I spoke at this week was where I met Brian Clute 4 years ago, and from Stephen Marshall. So it traces back to, you know, I'd call you, say, hey, Bill, how's it going? I mean, you're a client of mine. I love you and everything. I just wanted to say thanks. I would call Laura and just say, hey, Laura, I just wanted to let you know, Bill Thank you so much for referring Bill to me. He did a great job on the show today. He rocked it. And then I'm going to call Brian and say, hey, Brian, Bill Crawley rocked it today. Now, of course, he may not say, but he might say something like, who's Bill Crawley? I'm so glad you asked because you played a part in this. Do you remember
Right.
Jen Madison where you introduced us to Laura? Well, Laura referred Bill Crawley to the show, and he rocked it. And I just wanted to say, listen, if you had not connected me to Laura, I would have never been connected to Bill Crawley, so thank you. So then my next call is Stephen Marshall, who is in a hotel room right down the way, and I could go, Stephen, hey, thanks for the Bill Crawley referral. That guy's awesome. He rocked the show today. And Stephen would go, well, who's Bill Crawley? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because, Stephen, you played a part in this. You introduced me to a guy named Brian Clute 4 years ago at this very event, and Brian referred me to a gal named Laura, who's also a lender, who attended Jen Madison. She invited Bill Crawley. So listen to this, Stephen. If you had never introduced me to Brian Clute, I would have never, ever had the opportunity to work with Laura, and I would have never, ever had the opportunity to work with this awesome, amazing guy named Bill Crawley. So thank you, Stephen. And that's essentially the Great Retrace, right?
Right. Yep.
And you're a part of it. And what's funny?
Stephen's going to know that because he's watching this live, right?
He is right over there. So, so what's the power of the Great Retrace? Like, what have you discovered from making these calls that make it a great strategy for you?
I think the biggest thing is that it expresses our appreciation for the referrals and the introductions, even if they don't work out. So people really grasp and understand that these introductions and referrals are important to us, so that they feel more inclined and more apt to continue to refer and recommend.
Yeah, it's one of those things. First of all, do I need to say I'm still in the business? Right? I don't need to say that, right? Do I need to say that I'm still referable or I'm referable? I'm referable. Right? I don't need to say that. Do I need to say I'm professional? No. Do I need to say, you know what, I follow up really well? Do I need to say that? No.
Nope.
All of those, they're thinking that without me saying it. And which is better, me saying it or them thinking it?
Them thinking it, clearly.
Totally. So they're thinking it. And not only that, but do you think they're more apt to connect me and refer me and introduce me to others? The answer is yes, because there's accountability. Obviously, Bill and Michael are holding gentle accountability to others who are connecting us, right? Which is just, we keep track. So what's funny is people want to win when you're keeping track. Well, how do you win? You introduce, connect, or refer us, right?
Right. Did
you discover that? Did you see, tell me about that evolution from really knowing a few people to it expanding to people, A, knowing you as a realtor, not an automotive guy, and number two, just the expansion of the influential people in your life.
Yeah, so what's really cool about that is you can, as we go through, I mean, you talk about grading our database in the 7L. And as you start evaluating that and you're connecting with people, you can determine based on their goals how valuable they are going to be and how likely they are to refer back to you, because somebody who has multiple goals is a lot easier to help, and then they're going to reciprocate more likely. So that was definitely a bit of just a little tweak in my mindset, because I always felt that everybody had potential, but the reality is that some definitely have more potential than others.
That's right. Everybody has an ambassador profile. We want to invest our time, money, energy, and effort, our precious resources, into the ones that have the highest ambassador profiles. Those who are most likely to be an ambassador, we should probably pour into. And those that don't, listen, we're going to treat them with respect. We're going to love on them, but we're not necessarily going to put our time, energy, effort, and money from a business perspective into those relationships. Doesn't mean we can't play softball with them, drink beer with them, or have fun with them. It's just 9 to 6. We're going to pour into the people with the highest ambassador profile, right? I mean, is that what did you find about people who became ambassadors for you? What was consistent about them so that the people who are listening to this and watching this can start to identify these characteristics in the people they know and pour their time, energy, effort, and money into them?
These are people who are really self-motivated.
Nice.
That was one key thing I picked up right away. It's the ones who are self-motivated, self-driven. They're also out and about. They may not be the most influential in their circle, but they definitely travel with a fair amount of influence in their circle.
Nice.
I would say they're also very good at being able to connect you with. So if you identify, who's the biggest connector
Yeah.
and I would want to meet or get an introduction to that person. And that's what I was able to do.
It's a genius
with those
question. It's a genius question, right? Everybody that's listening and watching this should write that down. They should ask the most influential people they know, who is the most connected person you know, and then get an introduction to that most connected person. Bill, that's awesome. So they can make that connection, and they had the power and the means to connect you to those. Let me ask you this: what are the professions of your top referral sources? Do they seem to run in a certain pattern?
Yeah, they're either business owners,
Yeah.
C-level and above executives, or attorneys, and then I would say bank managers, managers at local banks. They are huge referral sources.
Okay. Wow. So that's a key, right? Because bank managers tend to know other bank managers,
Right.
and business owners and entrepreneurs, and C-level tend to know other business owners and C-level type executives. Are
Right.
you seeing that type of lateral referrals, that type of lateral connecting?
Yeah, it's pretty congruent. I'd say it stays that way.
Okay. And so tell us more about the Great Retrace and how you've been implementing it. Maybe even some. Do you have a success story or two that you've seen from implementing the Great Retrace concept?
Well, sort of. There was a spokes to hub strategy. If that counts.
The spokes to hub is a corollary to the Great Retrace. Absolutely.
So I had a buyer, an investor. He buys and holds properties, and then he calls me and says, "Hey, I want to build a couple of 4 units, and then I want you to sell a couple of my duplexes and another 4 unit after I get these new 4 units built. I need some lots. Can you find me some lots?" So I do a little digging, and I find a couple of lots that are held by a bank. Now, I know I need to get to the asset manager and determine whether or not, if we can put a deal together. So I do a little market study on this, and I'm figuring out likely the bank is going to say, "Hey, we'll do it, but we want to do a single party listing agreement," because the bank's going to want some separation there, which I get. So I can't.
So the asset manager, who usually, they've got barriers up like nobody
Right.
else, right?
Right.
So this is not an easy get through the gatekeeper kind of exercise. This is going to be a tough deal to get to the right decision maker, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have had brought my notes on this one, so I had all the exact names in front of me.
Yeah, that's okay.
But so I call the main line. I get the receptionist. I explain who I am, who I need to talk to. They don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. They think they do. They just refer me and dump me into somebody's voicemail.
Okay.
So I leave a message, stating who I am, what I'm looking to do, and if I'm not in the right voicemail box, could you at least call me back and let me know who I'm supposed to talk to? And of course, 30 minutes, an hour goes by, I hear nothing. Then I call again. I get dumped into somebody else's voicemail box, and then I'm scratching my head. I'm like, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Spokes to Hub, and I'm gonna put this thing on steroids and see how I can really leverage this.
Yeah.
So then I go and call a bank manager at another branch, and I call her and I say, hey, who do you know at this bank? And she says, well, I know so-and-so. And I said, would you be able to call that person to find out who the asset manager is, and then have them call the asset manager and let them know that I'll be calling? And would you do me one more favor? Would you then call that asset manager and let him know that I'll be calling? And then would you mind passing that information along so I know that I'm calling the right person? And she says, sure, absolutely, I'd love to do that. So then I call a branch manager at a different bank, ask him, who do you know over at this other bank? And he says, oh, I know so-and-so and this other person. I said, so I just repeat the process. So
how many times did you repeat the process? How many spokes did you have in your spokes to hubs?
Total would have been 4 different managers from different branches, and then a total of 6 different people from the bank. So there's 10 spokes, right? There's 10 spokes.
So this asset manager got 10 calls with the thought of, you know what, I probably ought to take this call from Bill Crawley.
Right.
Spokes to hubs.
Spokes to hubs.
Beautiful.
So I let them all know if they would please tell them that I'll be calling at 4 p.m. or between 4 and 4:05 p.m.
That's right.
So if he's available, you should take my call. And I call at 4:03 p.m. and he takes the call and he's like super excited. Oh my God, I've been waiting for your call.
Excited to hear from this famous guy, Bill Crawley, who everybody he knows is like, dude, you got to talk to Bill Crawley. And it's like, okay, so keep going.
Who's Bill Crawley?
Mr. Crawley. Oh wait, that's a.
I've never heard that.
Ozzy. Sorry. Hey, you went there. Come on, dude. All right. So what did the asset manager say at 4:03 p.m. on that day?
First, he was really pleased that I called him, and happy that I called him, and he was super excited and wanted to know what it was that was so important for me to talk to him and for him to take my call.
Right.
And then I explained to him that, I have this buyer who wants to build some 4 units, and you have a couple of lots over here in this neighborhood, and he wants to put an offer in at, X amount of dollars, and he can close in 10 days. It's a cash deal. It's just, we've already done our homework on it. We can, just tee this up and make it go. He says, he pulls them up and says, yeah, I think we can make it happen. We want to do a single party listing agreement. And I said, oh yeah, I'm sure you would. So I drafted up, and he says it'll be a day or two. I have to run it up the flagpole in order to get it approved, but I'm sure I'll get it approved, and I'll send it over to you, and then we'll.
So your barrier to this was writing up the listing agreement. He's like, yeah, all right, we'll do it as long as you write up a listing agreement.
Yep, that's it. So
wow.
So this is this is a Wednesday afternoon. So you got to understand the timeline now. So this is Wednesday afternoon. I draft it. Or Wednesday evening. I send it over to him, so he has it first thing and confirms to me 8:30 Thursday morning. 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, I get a notice in LinkedIn. The president and CEO of this particular bank wants to connect. So I'm thinking,
he's reaching out to
you. He ran it up the flagpole, and I got some attention. Cool. This could, evolve into something more. A few minutes later, I get the signed listing agreement. I call my buyer and I say, "Hey, we got the offer. I got the signed listing agreement. We got to draft the offer. Come over and sign it." So he does. I send that over Friday night. Monday morning, 8:30, I've got a signed accepted offer in my inbox. So we're good, ready to go. So I send it over as a title company who had prior on it, and I call them and I say, "Hey, is there any chance you can close this by Friday?" And they're like, oh my God, that's only 5 days. That's not a lot of time. We got to get the special assessment letters, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if we can do it. I'm like, look, if anybody can do it, you guys can do it. And so then we'll do our best. We can't guarantee. I said, just do whatever you can. Okay. And so 9:30, I get a call from the from the asset manager, and he says, "Hey, there's a 4th lot. We don't want it. It's included. Can you draft an amendment?"
Hey, we'd like to throw in this other lot. Just
Yeah,
for
yeah, so,
yeah.
okay, no problem. So I draft the amendment, send it over, get it signed, meet the buyer in the afternoon, get it signed, send it over to the title company, so now they got a fourth one to do title on. And then I call the city office, and I talk to a few people I know there, and I say, hey, Nightberry title company is going to come in. They need some special assessment letters for these lots over in this neighborhood. Would you mind seeing what you can do to kind of speed that up? I know, you don't necessarily work that way, but this is going to involve some new construction. It's really going to help the tax base, and we're going to wow the pants off of some people here. We can get this project done. And they're like, sure, no problem. So again, they call, and the gal drops the check off. She calls me the next morning and says, I can't believe it. I got the special assessment letters right away, and when I dropped the check off, I asked if they could speed it up, and they said they don't do rushes. I said, oh, I talked to somebody over there. They said they would help out. And so we end up closing at 3 o'clock Friday afternoon on 4 lots, so there you go, 8 sides.
So 4 lots for this guy who just wanted 2 lots to start out
Right.
with. All of a sudden, he owns more real estate than he bargained for. What's the rest of the story?
So he gets the initially he was looking at the deal, and he's like, well, what if I don't want this? There was a duplex lot in there. He's like, what if I don't want that lot? And I said, well, it's a package deal. You're getting it. Besides, I already talked to 2 builders yesterday. They have interest in the lot, so we can turn around and sell it probably for $20,000 over what you're actually paying for it. So it'll offset your costs on your 2 4-unit lots, and I mean you're well below $10,000 per unit when you're looking at lot cost.
Did you end up selling it?
No, he decided to keep it because it was such a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not an idiot. But he literally could have sold one of the lots for more than he got the 4 lots for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah. Based on your homework on that. And what's funny is, aren't you really glad you built those relationships with those bank managers? The people.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you hadn't had those relationships, none of this would have happened. Right.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've got all these great retraces to do back. Right.
Right.
So that's a thing of beauty. Anything else on that story or with that developer that you want to? I kind of feel the urge to ask. So what's the rest of the story? Is there anything else, or can you want to go into another strategy that you put into place?
So real quick on that, he's in the process of building 2 of the 4 units. I'm going to be managing those properties for him. And then he has 1 4-unit and a couple of duplexes that I'll be selling for him. So it works out really nice. And then because I'm managing the property in that particular area, I have contact and control with all those renters. It's a high rent area, so those people are likely going to be in a position they can certainly afford to purchase, but they're just temporarily renting. So I have plenty of buyers coming out of that pool then too, certainly qualified ones.
Place for you to nurture buyers, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Scott, does any questions from the audience that we wanted to focus on necessarily, or any questions for Bill?
Yeah, we haven't had anything come in from the audience. We do have about 6 minutes left, so if anybody has any questions and wants us to answer them live, go ahead and submit those now. I don't have any questions off the top of my head. Jason, is there anything that you were wondering about?
No, I think that we really were able to dive into this, and I really enjoyed that last story you had there, Bill. That was crazy. How you were able to, maneuver and really set up your different sorts of contacts there. I mean, that's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right, so,
all based on relationships, right? These are phone calls and relationships. And leveraging relationships to the point where you were helping everyone. What's funny is the bank managers love this as well, because they probably made a new contact at the new bank with the asset manager, and because maybe they didn't know the asset manager in the first place, just a beautiful implementation of making the extra call and going the extra mile for your client. So Bill, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I've got one quick question for you, Bill. What's the biggest change that you've noticed in your business since you started working with Michael?
I would say the level of comfort that there's plenty of business coming just based on the rate that I continually get referrals. I had 2 referrals this morning. I had received 3 yesterday, so I mean it's just continuous. And not every referral works out. So I think we need to be clear about that too. Is that yeah, we get a lot of referrals. Not every single one's going to work out.
That's right.
And many times there's nothing I can do with them. I end up having to refer them to somebody else. And sometimes they don't go anywhere at all. And occasionally I can do something with them, but it's not now. It's 6 months, 12 months, a couple of years even.
That's right. Well, at the very least, you can connect them to the other. I mean, I literally just got a referral this morning where it was a gal who was referred to me by one of my ambassadors, and she and her partner wanted to build or buy a building, and then also she was looking to buy a house after the 4th of July. Well, I don't do commercial, so in this case, you know, I'm going to refer that commercial real estate out. In fact, I've already done that with a guy named John, who's a commercial realtor in the Kansas City area. But Bill's exactly right. But isn't it a great life? Wouldn't you rather filter through referrals than filter through internet leads?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like one of those where you know we continue to receive over 500 referrals a year, 218 transactions, and you know, so obviously over 200, almost 300 of those referrals didn't become transactions. You know, didn't become
Right.
our transactions. They might have become outgoing referral transactions. But you're then at choice, and you have this business where you can run it from the sense of your biggest challenge is referral follow-up. Prospecting doesn't even exist anymore, right? It's all about referral follow-up. And it's a world that you no longer have to chase. I mean, Bill, are you feeling like you need to chase business, or do you feel like you're just attracting it?
Oh, it's I've become a magnet, and it just keeps coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
and yeah, go ahead.
So we did get a question from the audience here to close out, but before we get into answering that, Bill, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with, maybe one tip that we didn't get to today that Michael's maybe helped you with that they should check out?
Oh, well, actually, I heard a quote from an author a while back. I saw him do a speaking engagement, and what he said about advertising, which I thought was just absolutely brilliant and made total sense and really fits in with the 7L. He said, advertising is a penalty you pay for not being remarkable.
Yeah, Andy Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
All right, so the last question will kind of help us end it. So the question is from Rob Baxter, and he says that there seems to be several Facebook pages around Michael. That there's the 7L page and the Gen page, and he was wondering where's the best place to connect to share ideas with you, Michael.
Yeah, so it's we have over 81,000 plus ambassadors and fans at facebook.com/referral guru or fb.com/referral guru. I probably would change that title now. That was named a long time ago, but Facebook won't let me change it now that it's my official
Page.
whatever endorsed checkbox, whatever Facebook does,
Yeah,
page.
And we can put the link to that specific page for you, Rob. We'll go ahead and put it on the Hangout page after this Hangout's completed. That way you can hop on there and share ideas with Michael.
That'd be great. Hey, real
Bill?
quick, can we have Bill give his information for anybody
that's what I
that
was
wants
just
to
going to
refer
ask.
him?
Bill, if
Okay.
there's any information that you would like to share for people that would maybe like to connect with you and share those ideas,
Sure.
we'd love to know it.
You want me to blurt it out, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead. Whatever you're
Absolutely.
comfortable,
100%.
comfortable
Yes.
giving out.
Okay. They can connect with me on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to spot there. There aren't too many Bill Crawleys on Facebook. My email address is crawley.bill@gmail.com. So if somebody feels that they want to email me privately or message me privately on Facebook and connect, have questions there, I'd be glad to answer.
Fantastic. Crawley.bill@gmail.com, right?
Correct.
And Crawley is spelled- yeah.
Don't mail it to Bill Crawley at Gmail, because that goes to a guy in England.
And Crawley is CRAWLEY.BILL@gmail.com.
You the man. You got it.
Yeah, good stuff. Bill, man, you are the guest, man. You're the best guest, and I've enjoyed having you on today. And thank you for your wisdom and your willingness to share it. And quite honestly, if you're not over 100 transactions next year, it would surprise me. But what I think the listeners need to know is your flower is much bigger than, I mean, you're doing property management and you're doing flips. Your wealth building is
Right.
far greater than just a real estate business, and you're
Right.
wealthier than most real estate agents. But we really focused on the real estate arm of your
Right.
empire, and I appreciate
Right.
you doing that, and your candor and your honesty. You did not hype anything, and I love that about you, and I appreciate that about you. And I look forward to the next time that you and I have a chance to fist bump in person. And I thank everybody who attended this today on First Fridays, the Gen Hangout. Fist bump Friday to everyone, right? Fist bump Friday. Whoop, bam. So thank you, everyone. And Scott and Jason, take us home. And what a great show today. Great Retrace, Networking Stack, Home Core Advantage, Power Note.
I think
Spokes
I think the
Hub.
yeah, and I think the important thing there, Michael, I mean, that's everything people can do, and it costs little to no money.
Yeah. Yep. There we go.
Well, that's great, guys. It's been an awesome show. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Michael, as always, thank you for hosting this. This is great. We get out so much amazing content. Everybody that watched, join us again next month for another episode of the Generosity Generation Hangout. It'll be at the same time on the first Friday. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.